And now for something completely different.
Is it too much to ask why you look away? No one seems to stay. You go and turn away. Is it something I say that makes you look away? Is it too much to ask? Will you give me the shaft? I don't really mind it, not at all. I don't really mind it, not at all. You asked me out one night to try and get away, but you didn't come, and you didn't stay. I guess I don't mind. I don't have the time. This is just a bore, and I ain't your whore. I don't really mind it, not at all. I don't really mind it, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Good evening, good afternoon, hello, and good day. This is Cipriano coming to you from another frequency, from another time. Here I am. Hello, everyone.
Bravo, man.
Thank you so
awesome.
much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that one was called Is It Too Much to Ask? And that was about a dear friend of mine. Her name is Lisa. That's all I'll say.
For our listeners, our guest this week is Cipriano Ortega. Wes and I are in Cipriano's studio here in Denver, Colorado, and you just heard a little bit of what he does. Who's this guy on the kit behind you here?
Oh, this guy over here, this is Vitaliy Minyaylo. Is that how you say it, right, Vitaliy?
Yeah, that was
Minyaylo,
very
right?
good.
I always would say
Very, very
Minyaylo, but he'd give me this little glare. But I'm used to that too. People are like Cipriano.
Cipriano.
I'm not even gonna try to attempt this one. That's what they say, and I'm like, oh boy. And so now when I go to Starbucks or anywhere, I'm like Travis.
Yes.
They're like, what was that, Travis? Is that easy enough for you? And I picked Travis because I like Travis Bickle. So
There you go. How long you guys been playing together?
I say 7, you say 8, but I think 8 sounds better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 8 years.
Wow, that's quite a long time.
Yes, it has been a blooming relationship.
And this isn't the full band, right? You also work
Correct.
with a sax
Yes,
player
we have a
as well?
sax player. He's all the way in Conifer, so that's why he's not here today. But yeah, we also try to involve a sax player and also hopefully someday soon a harmonica player as well too, or a harp player as they call it as well too. So
Interesting.
yeah, and hopefully for the album itself, some cellos and maybe a string section and a big brass band is what I'm hoping for on certain things. Not everything, but there's certain levels, because we say that it's minimalistic, but anything that can help the lyrics or kind of emphasize the low frequencies or synthesizers we're always up to that. Because he's not just a drummer, but he's also a great composer as well too. And I call him kind of he is my co-producer. Like, I write the general structure and he can add in that kind of jazz flair because he went to Berkeley College and all that jazz. So.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Cipriano, tell everybody all that you do, because you are a visual artist. You write lyrics. You write poetry. We actually got to see some of your art down at Bridge last night.
Mm-hmm.
Part of an exhibition that's going on there. Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, I do an assortment of things, and I think the common thing is, like, what do they say? The common phrase now is not multidimensional. There's a word that I'm trying to grasp at. But my point is yes, I do a lot of different things in terms of trying to express my existence. And those things do consist generally of visual representation, sonic representation, and physical as well too. And what I mean by that is, I don't consider myself a dancer because I wasn't ever really formally trained in dance, but when I do move and stuff, it's still an expression. So I see it all in those ways. I also teach as well too. That's another method of just trying to allow people to get to their full potential. It's not as if I'm the gatekeeper, but if I can help people find their connections in those ways. I'm currently kind of mentoring two students that I know. One's from Ethiopia, and he moved here, and I think he's in California. The other one's in Canada. He's an Indian citizen, but he lives there, and he's working with the indigenous population. He's in college. So, in short, I try to do a lot of different things. Also currently trying to experiment more in just experimental sound. Like, I have this one string bass over here, this upright bass, and that's another thing of trying to get into the beat poetry mindset of almost trying to make it like improvisational jazz, having a structure, the stream of consciousness that I type up, and try to put that up and use that as a structure, and then just kind of improvise around that as well too. So a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'm trying to push the limits of what is poetry, what is music, what is visual art, what is theater. All these standard divisions I think are important, but I think sometimes they need to be torn down to be able to just transcend that and just see it as a creative expression of existence, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you try to incorporate all these different facets into what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I love all of them. And I love all of them so much that I'm trying to fuse them all together as much as I can, just because I'm here and I'm alive and I'm trying to feel alive. And I think that's why I do all this. And mainly it's in live performance because I like flesh and blood in front of me because I'm a vampire. So
So I got a question. Since what's your connection to beat poetry of a person your generation? A lot of times you don't hear a whole lot about William S. Burroughs
Right.
or Jack Kerouac. So
Right.
what's your connection to that?
it all started first with a movie, and I believe it's David Lynch, Naked Lunch. And that was released, I think, back in the 90s. And I was in college, and I worked in the media center, which basically you check out DVDs and you help people record things and etc. And I had a lot of downtime. It was a great job. I just sat there and ate lunch and checked out a few DVDs to people and watched movies all day. And so I had basically my own film studies course, because it was all the movies that colleges want to see are all there. It's a whole catalog. You just grab it off the shelf. So I saw this title. I was like, oh, Naked Lunch. I've heard of that title because I saw it on The Simpsons. I think one of the little boys goes and sees that Naked Lunch. He's like, what a ripoff, and he walks out. And I was like, oh, that's where I know it from. So that cultural reference, thanks to The Simpsons. So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. And it was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I mean, you have this relationship, this sexual relationship with the typewriter. The typewriter turns into this bug. There's the mugwumps, which I guess their cum produces some sort of intellectual stimulant which makes people high. I think it's also in Tangier. It also deals with homosexuality. And at the time, I was not really comfortable with my homosexuality or just queerness in general. And there was a party that I distinctly remember. He's at the bar, and this man walks up to him, the main character, and the guy looks to him. He says, "Well, are you a homosexual?" And he looks to him and he says, "Not by nature, no." And I was like, what a great answer. He just looks so cool, and he's still in denial. And eventually the character in it does, succumb to his own sexuality, and it's through the typewriter and etc. So yeah, that's in short, that's kind of how I discovered Naked Lunch and William Burroughs. And I was like, who came up with this? And then I discovered that. But then I also discovered most recently, about last year, I watched a documentary, and they kept saying Denver. They kept saying Denver is where the Beat Poets came. And I was like, holy shit. Okay. Well, then Naropa as well, too. Naropa University, I saw William Burroughs did lectures there, and I've been listening to his stuff. So I'm like, there's a connection here. And I think it's also, the soundtrack is very jazzy. It's very noir. I mean, so the saxophone and the drums, that kind of tenacity kind of lends itself to my world. And I think I finally found a home in the Beat Poet sense, because again, it comes from jazz, and also it just comes from music. They're trying to get to this subconscious level of expression, and I think that's what really appeals to me. And I think that what appeals to both of us is, again, pushing those lines of, here we are, and we're going to do something that's either rehearsed or not. It all depends. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Is there's an alter ego that I have, which is Mr. Mundane, and he's starting to turn more into a performing artist that's definitely still musical, but not structured at all in terms of like, oh, this is a catchy riff. It's a 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. He's all over the place. So this is much more structured, and he's still in development, but we'll get to that later. I kind of think of him like David Bowie had the Thin White Duke. He starved himself, and he was doing a lot of coke. Not that I do either one of those things, but he did that, I think, just because he was a drug addict, but also to access a different part of himself. And I also come from theater and acting, so method acting is another huge part of my performance and just existence. That's why I dress this way currently, is because I'm trying to capture the 50s queer beat poet. So to get into that kind of costume helps me elude a certain emotion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And is that because of that beat connection? Is that why you gravitate to the bass, that rhythm that kind of goes along with that poetry?
That's a very good question. Yes. I think what it is for me, I see the bass and the bass frequency. Obviously, it's low. And both of us, I think, it's fair to say that we feel low pretty often. And it's also very percussive. And again, another big band and influence is Tool. And Tool is very bass and drum driven. There's Danny Carey and I forget the bass player's name. All the Tool fans are going to be like, but they're both incredible musicians. And my point is also Adam Jones, the guitarist, more so Adam Jones, is very percussive. I've never heard a guitarist, in my experience, to be that percussive. And it's in this relationship to the drums. And you look at their early work and also their work overall, it's very guttural, but it's also very high intellect as well, too. So I love that blending of, for lack of better words, I don't like the word primal, but I'm going to still use it, from this primal guttural sense than something much more cosmic, because I believe as human beings, we're both this beautifully, highly functional, intellectual being, but we're also very animalistic and very vicious. And those two things combined is kind of what I try to deal with in my art, because it's very frustrating to be human.
I want to talk a little bit more about influence. You grew up in a house full of artists. Both your mother and your father are artists here in Denver. Talk about their influence or how they influenced you growing up.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a child, you don't question your reality. You don't know the difference from other people, because at least for me, I hung out with people a little bit when I was a kid, but most people I'd hang out with were people who were much older. They were just adults, and they were my parents' friends. And, we would go to France, and we would go to the Louvre, and we'd see a painting. And for me, there's a story where we just kept going to all these museums when I was a kid, and all these nudes. And I was like, another painting. And I just fainted. My point being of saying that is like, that was just my reality. It's like, there's art everywhere. So for me, it wasn't like, I'm an artist, my parents are artists. It was like, no, this is my life. Now, getting into being older, high school, going to Denver School of the Arts was a whole thing. So I was a little bit more aware. That's when I was introduced to bullying, abuse, kind of just manipulation and excommunication, great knowledge, and also just my division between people. When I realized, like, oh, not everybody is this way.
So once I went into middle school, it started a little bit of elementary, but it was more so middle school. And again, I'm not knocking Denver School of the Arts. It's just high school and middle school in general is a very rough time. So just to make that clear. So it's been great, in short. High school, it was different in the sense because I still really wasn't sure who I was, and it still didn't click. It's like my parents are artists, still didn't click. And then college came, and then it was like, well, I'm going to try to start doing this. Maybe I want to be an artist as well, too. And then once I hit 30, after this 5-year hiatus of major health issues, it all just clicked. It was all like, wow, I am really blessed. And I kind of cringe when people say that, but it's true for me right now at this moment. Both my parents are healthy. They both are beautiful people. They both express themselves in very different ways. When they're at the dinner table, it's like my mind is having dinner with me because I hear both sides of my brain. And I won't say which is which, but it's amazing. It's just been marvelous. And, before I was like, I'm 25 and I'm still living at home. I'm 26, I'm still living at home. But now it's like I'm 30 and I'm very happy to be living at home with my parents because we spend so much of our time, I think, just getting away. I'm not like my parents. I'm never like my parents. I don't want to be, but now for me, it's like, yeah, I am like my parents because they made a very conscious decision to create me. And now I'm here. So yeah, in short, it's been great.
And foster and support that, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like I say, I could go into beekeeping or want to go into beekeeping and they'd be like, okay. And again, it's not, I want to make it clear too, it's not as if I'm a coddled, spoiled child. And I got that a lot as well too in college and in high school because I'm an only child as well too. It's more so they make me work and they support me in terms of feeding me and giving me electricity and such and many other ways, of course. But again, I'm trying to make this capitalistic approach of like, I'm independent. And that's another thing that I deal with in my art as well, too, is just to be aware of one's privileges and just to be grateful for them. And if you can use them to your advantage to help other people see their privilege and also their disadvantages, that's kind of, I think, the whole point of being in a capitalistic society. So, yeah.
Sometimes we need to have a little bit of that life experience to realize what we truly have, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me was the 5 years of major health issues and really coming to terms of having to accept I can't physically do anything that I was able to before and really sitting with oneself for 5 years in solitude. Still obviously creating and tinkering, but not on the same level as we're doing today. And coming full circle around to that now, and then of course being plunged into the midst of a pandemic is all another experience. Yeah, and it's still happening as we speak. So it's an interesting time to be alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those health issues because I think, it's interesting. Everybody has struggles in their lives, and this is what you do. And I love what you guys are creating. But you had some serious health issues, and it revolved around your main tool, one of your main tools, your voice.
Yep.
Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, post-college at around 2014, I spent all those years, 5 years, weightlifting, martial arts, a lot of muscle tension, a lot of mental tension, and sang a lot of grunge. So I wanted to be, all the great grunge artists and really pushed my voice. And I was always told, I think it's also, I don't know if it's just me. For me, I feel like it's just a male thing and maybe just a performance thing as well, too, in general. We're always told, push yourself, keep going, get a higher range, get stronger, get faster, better. And I did, I fell into that gender, kind of trend trap. And I don't think it's just gender, too. It's just overall youth thing of like older people telling you, I couldn't do it, so you do it. And it felt great because it's a sense of approval. But it got to the point where, and I was in a really abusive relationship at the time, and that ended. And I still dwelled in it because for some reason I had this perception the more I suffered, the more, they would come back. And that was obviously not true, and I'm glad it wasn't true. But it turned into I couldn't swallow, I couldn't sing, I couldn't really talk. I could swallow, but it was very painful. So all this tension, so jaw tension, neck tension, physical tension, mental tension, all added up. So it finally just all came down. And basically, essentially, I had developed muscle memory in my body to the point where anytime I spoke, my body would squeeze all the muscles around my vocal cords, which would cause it to be squelched. So I had to spend all those 5 years breaking down my psyche as well as my body to really understand what it means to truly be grounded and to truly accept my voice, because I never really liked my voice. And so I always tried to change it or make it deeper or whatever. And again, I think that's another gender thing that, again, I'm not blaming society. It's also receptive in how I responded to it. But now it just comes down to being grateful that I can even vocalize for you. And I take it a day at a time. And I developed a cyst as well, too. And I had to go to Arizona, and they did an injection at the Mayo Clinic, but it turned out that made it worse. So that was another 1.5 years of working around the cyst that was smaller but got bigger. So, the cyst persists, as I say, but right now she's doing okay.
I'd like to hear another song.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, of course. This one's called Sense of Direction. It's for anybody who has dated an actor. A call back. It's at 9:15. It's for a movie that's called My Mind. She's my director. I just play a part. She says her lines, and I fall apart. Sometimes I wonder why the movies lie. Those happy endings are such a crime. A cold reading, I recite my lines. She reads off hers, and I recite mine. Sometimes I wonder why the movies lie. Those happy endings are such a crime. I lack direction, but I feel aligned. A straight shot to my face, 'tis a right on time. So now I know I didn't get the part. She said her lines and broke my heart.
That was amazing. I like that a lot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to take a moment because I've been around music a little bit. Never seen anybody play a 2-string bass. So can you talk about that?
Yes.
Obviously, it looks like you probably created it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk
Correct.
about that and a little bit of the process of why you picked doing a 2-string?
Yeah, so I'll start way back to an album that really left a huge impression for me, and that was LA Woman by The Doors. And I heard that, and I heard this crooner by the name of Jim Morrison, and I also heard Robbie Krieger, I believe is his name, on the slide guitar. And I was like, what is this sound? And I played guitar for a little bit, and I still do. I still like a 6-string, 8-string guitar. Actually, I think it also starts with that, too. We started a prog band a long time ago, one of our first projects, which hopefully someday that music will be released, with an 8-string guitarist. And an 8-string guitar has 2 more strings that are lower frequency. So you kind of have a bass and a guitar all in one. Essentially, a lot of prog guitarists will probably be like, no, you're not what it's for. But anyway, so I always liked the lower frequencies. Let's fast forward now to about a year and a half ago. I was watching The Sopranos because I always wanted to. I love mafia movies. I just do. I like the aesthetics. I like the look of it. It's also very noir as well, too, I think. They always play the typical theme song of The Sopranos, but there was one episode that this song came on. And the second I heard it, I was like, what the fuck is that? And it was Buena by Morphine. And at the time, I was wanting to experiment more with the bass anyway, and I had this concept, even before I discovered the later part of this story, it was like, I think I'm going to make a 1-string bass. I don't want all the 4 strings. I need something simple. I just want something simple, because I was writing bass lines on the keys. So I researched 1-string bass, and then I stumble across Morphine again. I'm like, oh, there's that band. And there's a gentleman by the name of Mark Sandman. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my. He plays this instrument, but I didn't realize it was a bass, which was Buena, again, going back to the song. But it's also a 2-string bass, but it's also a 2-string slide bass. And all of a sudden, I just fell in love. I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I've been searching for my whole life. And from then, I ordered one. This was one Sheila, and I altered her, but that was the first one I got. And I ordered it, and I paid $130, and it's a great little guitar for what it is. But it wasn't enough. And I was like, okay, I need to make one myself. So I made Candy over here, and there's other 2 back there. There's Mona's sister, and there's Mona. So in the sense, I took the design of Mark Sandman's bass, which he bought from a pawn shop for $50, this cheap Multivox Premier bass, and he made it a Frankenstein kind of thing and turned it into something beautiful. So he invented this bass. So to be clear to anybody, I am definitely not taking the claim of that. He's the maker. That's why you see on the headstock it says Sandman, because he's the dream maker and he made one of my dreams. So yeah, I mean, I make them with my dear friend Scott Lofquist, who lives over here in Wheat Ridge, an incredible luthier for anybody who wants to get their guitars in the perfect condition. He is an amazing human being. He's an author, he's a musician, he's a gardener. He's probably one of the biggest muses I've ever encountered so far in my musical and just overall life. He's my foster grandfather, because lost my grandfather in December of last year, and then I met Scott, and he's kind of not replaced, that's the wrong word. He filled that gap, because I really needed somebody to have that kind of friendship with again. So yeah, that's it. That's in short where it's from. And there's a lot of secrets behind it, which I won't reveal exactly everything, but it's very fun for sure.
So do you find the limitation of a 2-string bass more complicated to compose with, or more freeing, or easier?
I don't so far look at it as limiting. I see it just as more of a soundscape palette. Again, more percussive. It's guiding the story. And the frequencies and the slide and the off-kilter of it and the cadence of the slide makes it even moodier. Because you're hitting the tone most of the time, as long as I don't fuck up. And it's always alluding to this kind of, it's not ever in solid ground, because it's on a slide. So you can only play this with a slide. So I think I like that as well, too. And then this beautiful gentleman over here keeps everything in line. So it's that minimalistic approach. So for me, it's very freeing, because I can try to make it melodically more interesting. So the less I have around me, surrounding me to try to influence me, I can influence it. And it's obviously a dialogue back and forth, but Yeah, it's very free. And I have other concepts as well, too. Like I mentioned, the one-string upright bass, and that's going to be another project, and a couple other guitar concepts that hopefully we'll get to see as long as I stay healthy. So
You can tell that you guys have been playing together for a while. I was watching some videos of you guys, and then even today, like, you're very in tune to each other. I see the looks that you kind of looking back and forth as far as where you're at, and that's I always enjoy seeing the interaction between musicians. Are there other people outside? Are there any prevalent other two-string slide guitar?
there is, I believe her name is Monique. I forget her last name, but her band is called Alien Knife Fight, I believe it's called. And she has a band it's a two-piece as well, too. I believe it's a drummer and a synth player, and she also plays a two-string. She was the protege, as far as I know, of Mark Sandman. I think she was actually friends with him. There's a couple other people in the Morphine fan page that have made their own, or constructed or altered and made their own two-string basses, but nobody that's mainstream or known in that bigger sense. That's another reason why I like Morphine as well, too, is it's kind of this little club that only very certain people know. And I love that about that. And I think that's another reason why I clung to this kind of instrument, because it's conventional in the sense that it's a bass, but it's very unconventional because it's not played at all traditionally. Because a lot of bass purists are like, well, you don't play with your hands, so you need to be playing with the pick and, all that stuff. Musicians are so much fun. Yeah, to answer in short, not really. Yeah, it's kind of its own nuanced thing. And I think a lot of people find it limiting, and that's why a lot of people try to avoid it, because it's just not their taste, which I totally understand. But for me, it's my cognac or my whiskey or my tequila. It's a nice thing for sure. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, the sounds that you can get out of such a, pared down instrument,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Talk about the influence of Mark Sandman, because he was another artist like yourself that
Yes.
was multidisciplinary.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Oh, yeah,
that's
definitely.
what we were kind of talking about early
yeah, we
on
were,
in the
for
podcast.
sure. Yeah.
Talk about his influence.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. It's like a ghost sometimes visits me, to not get too weird about it. The one I have back there, which is Mona's sister, is as close to a replica as I could have ever created to Mark Sandman's bass. He's a right-handed player, so I had to make a left-handed one. But I found the tuners, I found the body shape as much as I could adapt to it. I found the wood grain. I found, the string retainer, all the parts, even the bridge. I found the exact bridge that he probably found and put on to his bass. And the tuners that he has or had on his bass are those old-fashioned 70s ones with the gears. And there was the time when I was setting up that bass, I had to unscrew the other two and take them out because they rattle a lot. And I was like, wow, he did the exact same thing. And for me, I just get chills because I'm just such a huge fan of such innovation. And yeah, he was just a brilliant musician and a brilliant poet. Again, a very big influence with the beats. So for me, this is all about finding connections. Again, it goes back to even to Taxi Driver and listening to that soundtrack, which is very saxophone and snare drum driven. And that whole narrative and that character really influenced me and changed my life, quite frankly. Taxi Driver changed my life in terms of my artistic outlook on everything and just my overall spirituality, really. And yeah, so going back to Mark, I've been fortunate enough to talk to people who've known him, a lot of his friends, also his bandmates, Dana Colley, Jerome Dupree. Me and Vitaliy were privileged enough to do this thing with Archive in Denver and talk to them on a Zoom panel. And Dana, when it was crazy because he called me to talk about the podcast. And he calls me up and he's like, hello, is this Cipriano? And I'm like, yeah. My voice went up like 3 octaves, like, yeah, it's me. Yeah, I've been doing it. I was like, hi, Dana. How's it going? He's like, good. He's like, how's Candy treating you? Which is the bass. And I'm like, wow, he knows the name of my bass. And yeah, and getting to the podcast, when I was just talking about how much I love all of them, and he just looked at me and he said, welcome to the club. And for me, it was like, it was amazing because no one has ever said that, because I did swordsman. I still do swordsmanship. All these things I mentioned, I still do, but not in a group collective. I did Aikido and martial arts. I did LARPing. I did swordsmanship. I tried to do visual arts, and I still do it in that sense. But I did acting. I tried to get in theater, musical theater. But everything's kind of an elite club. If you don't fit into a certain bracket or you don't present yourself in a certain way, then you're always kind of excluded. But with this, I felt finally at home. And I think, as cliche as it sounds, I've always been trying to find a home, but I think I finally found it in the low rock, low frequency beat thing. Because I'm studying the beats even more extensively because I want to get to know them as well as I can. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's the bongos and the little beret and, they're all doing drugs and acting. But they spawned the hippie movement. They were the first in the 60s, though in the 50s and 40s, way back, where, if you didn't wear a tie, you just wore it like this, or your hair was a little long, something wrong with that person. Or are you queer? It's like, so they pushed that. So it's thanks to that kind of American innovation, and it stemmed, as far as I know, from the Americas, from America. That's where it comes from. So I'm trying to get to the root of revolt in the sense of I want to do something that's vintage and inherent and cool, but it's kind of my own interpretation of that. And Mark Sandman did that. Yeah, for sure. Good question.
And your song lyrics, they contain a lot of social commentary. Even though you had this great family life and supportive parents, you really haven't ever felt like you had that kind of validation. Is that the sense that I get?
I think it's definitely validation, but it's also just a sense of camaraderie. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not even trying to play the victim or whine about it at this point. At this point, it's liberating. I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to answer to just one club. I can do what I want to do. I can do podcasts like this. I can perform at universities. I can show at galleries. So I don't have to, succumb to anybody's like, well, if I do that, they may not like it. Or like because I know a lot of people just in life with their friend circles and such, like, well, I did this to impress them. And I'm just like, that's just a foreign concept to me. It's like, why, if they're your friends, why do you need to always impress them so they stay? Or like people are just like, well, I just want them to stay because if they leave, I'm alone. And it's like, yeah, and you're alone. You're alone anyway, but you have this illusion of these fake friends or these fake connections. And that's where it gets into kind of just this whole thing of just everything's a business transaction. And for me, I try to just transcend that. And of course, I need business. I need income to survive because I'm in this capitalist society. But my lyrical content and my just overall artistic approach really tries to tackle that and see how much it influences all of our interactions. Because I think everything's transactional, and it's like, what can you do for me? What can I do for you? And that's great because I think that's human existence. But once we put a dollar sign to it, or if we put a number of likes to it, it's like, I think it's a little bit dangerous. So to answer in short, yeah, it's been great because I don't have anyone else to turn to other than him and my I do have friends. It's not like I'm poor and alone, but I'm not saying that. But I think we're all alone, and I think we have to kind of accept that, and we need to find ways to to self-soothe. And I think this is my way of just self-soothing because I'm a sentient being and I'm just trying to figure it out. And when I die, I die. So, and I'd like to just connect to as many people as I can. And I think this is my way of trying to do so. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't seem like you struggled with your identity through all this, though. Is that correct? Like, did identity play into this? Because you always seem like even though you were trying to figure out what group you could be a part of, I get a sense that you always knew who you were as a person.
Yeah, I think my parents really gave me a good sense of self because they always kind of let me do my own thing. There was not really any video games in the house. There was building materials. There was art supplies. So I was only a child, so I had to figure out my own little narrative. So I'd, go out in the backyard and dress up and, act out these plays and these little scenarios by myself because all I had was me. So I think I had to have a really good sense of moral compass that was relative to me to be able to just function. So yeah, a sense of self has always been pretty strong in me because I didn't really have any other choice because I did try. Like if I dress this way, maybe they'll accept me. If I get a 6-pack abs, maybe then I'll get laid. But it was all a waste of time. And the older I got and the more I tried to do it, I kept knocking on the same doors and it's like, they're not answering. And why am I doing this? So, and it was very fleeting, but it definitely happened. But at this point, it's like, I'll just stay in my cocoon. And the people who I attract with this low sound, with this brooding, to some people, depressive thing, welcome to my cocoon. So, and you're in it right now. Yeah.
I like it here, man.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah. Most of the people that do, they do like it, and they seem to stay. So he likes it.
That's sometimes hard to figure out that, and especially as an artist that, you're trying to, you want to be accepted as an artist and you want people to like your stuff. But I think sometimes people get kind of caught up in trying to do what they think other people want to see or be a part of or what they like. And really it's about being true to yourself, and you'll find your people. And we've had this discussion with a bunch of different artists that, don't worry about what you're doing. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and people will find you.
They say, and it's cliche, but it's true. They say your vibe attracts your tribe. And it's true, I think, because I always thought it was bullshit for a long time. Like, be true to yourself. And I saw it on little colorful flower things or memes or self-motivating things on Facebook. And I'm just like, it's a bunch of bullshit. And it's because I thought my truth had to reflect their truth. But now I'm realizing, no. It's like, I'll dress this way, I'll walk this way, I'll look this way because I feel good in it. And again, we're in a country and we're a beautiful place where we can self-express. But again, it comes down to, well, what brand is it? And when we get to that point, it's like, well, what's the relevance if it's Gap or if it's thrift store? And those kind of people, all I'll say is good luck to you. And if you want to live in that world, they are living in that world. And I think, are they happy? I don't know. Am I happy? I don't know. I don't think, for me, it's not about happiness. It's about finding contentment in the moment, because especially nowadays, we don't know what tomorrow is going to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think a lot of people, because they're unsure who they are themselves, they turn to the machine that says, this is who you can be, and this will make you cool, this will make you accepted, and actually I just heard a podcast says the death of cool. So I guess we're on the downhill slide of cool. But anyway,
that's maybe it's an old term.
Right.
I like it though. Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, I think we're victims of the machine that's driving out. You need to wear this. You need to drink this. You need to do this. So that,
right.
And I think people become victims of that.
Yeah. And it's also, I'm beginning to observe even more so, just the algorithms themselves are becoming the enemy, because I stream on Omegle, and you have an IP address, and I've been doing it every day this week, and all of a sudden Omegle sees me as spam. It's this place you can just go on camera and you can stream stuff and people will watch and they can leave. But all of a sudden, the algorithms are like, wait, we're not making money off of that, so we're going to stop you. Are you human? Prove that you're human. My point is that we're going into a world that's digitized, that the only voices that'll be heard are censored through the algorithms. It's not even people. People think it's like 1984 and it's people in like a little booth who are like, no, it's not that. It's these intelligent little algorithms that'll detect everything. And the more we feed into the machine, the more the God becomes smarter, and the more our consciousness goes into the hardware. And again, that goes into Naked Lunch, into the Beat Poets, because William Burroughs was talking about the machine itself. And either the machine controls you or you control the machine, because human beings are obsessed about control. And I think we are in a very dangerous place if we're not careful of understanding when to turn it off and when to be like, that's horseshit. This is now, I can't breathe, or I can breathe, I can do this, I can do that. The free will, and this country is all obsessed with freedom, or the concept of freedom. I really don't think if we were handed freedom at its full potential, we could handle it. And I think that's why we put up all these social norms and these rules. And I think we need to, because the human mind and the human consciousness needs limitations. We can't even conceive of infinity because we don't live forever. We need some sort of, time frame. So, but what we put into that to get into these social elite clubs or statuses or whatever, that's where I'm like, I don't have time for this, because my life is fleeting and short and could even be cut shorter with the pandemic and such. Yeah, definitely.
Should we hear another song?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this one is pretty well received. We do it live, but we've yet to do a recording of it yet. So here's this one. This is called Black and White.
white turn gray. In my sky today, and though I may be a fool, a jagged, wretched tool, I still carve out my day, make depression say, good for you. When the sun comes out someday, I'll be okay. Until then, I'll lay low and out of the way. Doctor, give me the news. I got a case of the blues. And you just say, buck up, buttercup, it's not so bad. Soon your sadness will soon turn glad. When the sun comes out someday, I'll be okay. Until then, I'll lay low and out of the way. You hold me down in the sheets at night. You beat me up and you say I'm alright. When the sun comes out someday, I'll be okay. Until then, I'll lay low and out of the way. Ooh, yeah. Black and white still stay in my sky today. That's okay. I'll endure. I'll endure. I'll endure. I'll endure.
That was great.
Oh, thank you very much.
Loved it. And that's a newer song?
Yes, that's not new to us, but definitely new to the public.
Okay.
I do stream a lot, and that one has gotten a lot of reception. The other day, I played it for this girl who goes to Naropa, and I looked up after I'm done, and she was crying. So I'm like, that hit something. So, and it comes from a pretty, again, those 5 years were a bit of a doozy. So, yeah, good stuff. Thank you.
Hey, take a moment and tell our listeners where all they can find your music.
Yeah, I'm for now, at the moment, Instagram, for sure, at Cipriano Band. There's YouTube as well, too. Just look up Cipriano Ortega. It's the blue and white emoticon or emoji, little profile picture on YouTube. Vimeo as well, too. Someday soon, hopefully, we'll be recording in a studio and getting that stuff on Spotify and all that other stuff. But that's obviously not happening quite yet. But eventually, we want to make money from the songs. So
Yeah.
yeah, but for now, you'll be able to see a lot of different music videos, some of my more experimental poetry stuff, Mr. Mundane's musical material as well, too, which is my alter ego. Yeah, so those are the platforms you can find. And Facebook as well, too. I don't have a Facebook page. I have a Facebook profile, so anybody that wants to add me on there, I'm pretty much accepting. Even the spam bots, I accept. So anybody who's interested, come on into Cipriano land.
Hey, maybe a shout out to the spam bots. They don't get.
Yeah,
enough
shout out to those
recognition,
spam
right?
bots. Hello, how are you today? Good, how are you?
Nice. I love the.
Did you
ribbon.
hear
Thank
about
you.
did you hear, give us your credit card? Or those other ones that are just like, hey, sexy. I'm like, oh my God, go away. I'm glad a spam bot thinks I'm sexy.
So you anticipate going into the studio sometime? Do you think
Yes.
before the end of the year, or
I'm projecting springtime of next year.
Okay.
I am in the works of trying to work with two producers and deciding which one will work best. One of them is going to be, his name is Frank. He was actually Mark Sandman's friend. And Paul Coldery is also another potential person. He's also produced pretty much all the Morphine albums and Radiohead and a couple other pretty known bands. So it's not so much necessarily that their names are associated to it, it's that they understand this frequency, so they're familiar with it. So a way to be able to capture and preserve that, because that's all I see recording is you're capturing a moment, trying to preserve it and present it for later on when you can hit play. So yeah, I mean, if those two don't work out, then we'll find someone. There's plenty of different people out there, but fingers crossed, I'm in dialogue with both of them, and I think they're just waiting patiently to see where it develops, and as am I. I'm not being patient. I'm trying to rush as much as I can to get it out there. But all those 5 years going back to it again taught me the value of patience.
So will you travel to them, or will you bring them to Denver to record?
I think it's by maybe a bit of both. I'd like them to definitely come here to maybe capture certain things, but I definitely would love the experience of going to their studios and looking at their gear and figuring out how to experiment. Because that's the beauty of a studio, is that you can tinker, and again, I have these 4 different basses, and a lot of people sometimes, well, why do you need, people who aren't musicians are like, why do you need more than one guitar? It's like, well, this one has a humbucker, this one has P-bass, this one's a custom pickup, this one's mahogany, that one's Polonia, this one's MDF cardboard. So all of them have a little bit of a different nuance. So they all have different little voices. Not little, sometimes they're pretty big, but so be able to just put those through amps or put those through, analog stuff, effects, it's just so much fun because it's sonic painting, and it's like, I love the recording process very much. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll get there, knock on wood.
Talk about your pedal board.
Yeah.
Are you using a lot of effects?
I try to keep it pretty simple, and I won't name everything per specifically, but there is an octavator which makes it sound a bit more guitar-esque, particularly on the choruses. Sometimes there's a fuzz, a little bit of reverb, and another pedal that's a sustainer pedal to kind of give a droning sense as well, too. So, and a volume pedal. So I try to keep it as simple as I can. Another influence for me is Jack White. His tone and his innovation in the music world has just been amazing. He's a genius, I think. And so his simplicity approach, specifically in his project with the White Stripes that we're all familiar with, that 2-piece kind of approach is another big influence for me. And that's a lot of where it comes from. Jack White played a plastic hollow body airline guitar is what they called them back in the day, another vintage guitar. So again, that vintage vibe as well. I have a body that I'm going to hopefully someday turn that into something like that. That's another project on the horizons, hopefully.
Yeah, and he's kind of evolved from playing, he keeps it simple, but also he's evolved from those older vintage guitars that weren't exactly, what's the word I want to use?
User-friendly?
User-friendly,
Yeah.
cooperative. Now to where he's kind of evolved to using like the Eddie Van Halen, I think, guitars.
Yeah, I think he played that on SNL. And it was so wonderful. I think it was a very historic event. I don't think a lot of music people who aren't music people understand how amazing that was when he played on SNL. I think it was last year. But just to see, and it's starting to come back, and that's a whole other music subject and a can of worms, but we're starting to see analog again. We're starting to see drums, bass, guitar, sometimes a synth player live. And I love digital stuff. Don't get me wrong. Mr. Mundane lives in the digital world. So he's all artificial. But this is my analog approach to another project. You know, and I want to make it clear as well, too, this is definitely the musical project right now, but we're going to change. We've changed throughout all these 8 years. Again, we started in a prog band. That material has never been released to the public, but it was a very different sound. You know, then we did the Mr. Mundane project. Now we're doing the 2-string thing. So it's all just... Why we call it Cipriano is not so much an ego trip, and most people may turn their nose to that, but it's true. It's more so, it's Cipriano. We don't know what it's going to be. Some pieces are more jazzy, as you've heard even in this. Some pieces are more experimental. Some pieces are punk influenced. So it just all depends on where we go sonically. And I think that's why we try to keep it as simple as we can, because we just want to see where we can go musically and creatively. Yeah.
I mean, making the connection to, you know, the abstract expressionists that go to an art, well, you know, they were responding and they were trying to strip it down to its bare minimum and showing that. So it's the same thing sonically with you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And even going into technology, I mean, even Steve Jobs. I mean, we both have mixed feelings about Steve Jobs, but we're both Apple users anyway. My point being is that he was very much akin to the Zen aesthetic. You know, like he wore the same thing every day. He was very minimalistic in his home. You look at the iPod design, you look at the MacBook, the user-friendly thing. Point being is that, yeah, that minimalistic approach even works in technology because I just like minimalism. Even in my life aesthetic, I just don't like to complicate my things with more steps than just being able to just do it. Because I think, again, it comes back from... You know, those 5 years again, too, I remember, you know, I loved the prog project that we did. But I love the musical influence and what Vitaly's taught me and Josh, our ex-guitarist, taught me. The complex chords, you know, the odd time signatures, the more complex, the better. But I remember when I was separated from all that and just listening to Nirvana's Unplugged. And I'm a huge fan of Nirvana. I'm a huge fan of Kurt Cobain. And I just remember sitting there and crying and being like, this is all I wanted to do. This is all I wanted to do. I mean, not to bash you or anything that we did. I mean, I love all of it. It's all been a journey. But it's like, I wanted to get so complex that all I wanted to do was just sing a song. You know, so I think that's why I'm like, just 2 strings, just a bass line, just drums and vocals for right now. Maybe, and again, like I don't mind complexity. I love that. But the base foundation, no pun intended, maybe there's a pun in that. The base foundation is this. And I see it like a house. I see the foundation, you know, like I'm building a house. Like the foundation is the bass frequency, the drums are the walls, and the vocals are the roof. So it's all there. It's a 3-part harmony in that sense. And the drums and bass and all of them are in dialogue. And we're so familiar with each other in our mental psyche. We're synced up because we're very similar in our mental states. We're both nihilists. So our deep conversations transcend words sometimes, and they get exchanged in the musical expression as well.
So I got a question on creativity. Obviously, your creative well is deep and broad. Mm-hmm. So when you know, whether you're talking sonically or through poetry or your visual art, does it come from the same place? Does it speak in different ways? How do you see that, or do you? Maybe it's a stupid question. I don't.
You mean like the source of it all?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's angst. And, you know, it's like Kurt Cobain says, teenage angst has paid off well, hasn't paid off well. It's paid a little bit, but that's what he said. And, you know, people are like, well, you're so angsty. Like both of us sometimes are just like, you know, your stuff is depressing, or it's like, you know, and for them, I think what it comes down to is it's a place they don't want to be in. And I get that. It's for a lot of people, a really shitty place. But for me, I wrote this down yesterday. For me, depression is reality. It's just accepting, you know, the things that you can't change. You know, that's a little bit of AA there as well, too. But, not that I was an AA. But, I mean, it comes from, angst. And it comes from this place of, like, I need to say something. Because I kind of, some people say I have a short fuse. I like to think I have a long fuse. The long fuse gives me time to observe. It gives me time to be objective in my own self of why is this affecting me this way? Why am I feeling angry? Because over there on the wall, it says, listen to respond, not react. And I take that very seriously because a lot of the time I come from martial arts, I'm taught to react. They throw something at me, boom, I do this. But it's not that simple. Sometimes I wish it was that simple, but it isn't. So I have this long fuse, and the fuse gets, longer and longer because I want to be able to make sure I can deliver it as well as I can. And it comes from that honest place of angst. And I think that's just, again, being human and being sentient. Like, I'm alive. I know I'm going to die. I know I can get sick. I could get COVID. I could get something else. I could get cancer. I could lose my loved ones. I will lose my loved ones. I will lose myself eventually. So that's where it comes from. Is like, okay, that's it. I mean, it's not like I want to. I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad that people like my music. I'm grateful for people who are receptive. I love that very much, but I never want to be someone's healer. Because I hear a lot of artists sometimes they're just like, my art is healing and I want to heal people. That's great. But I don't want to come off as like I'm a preacher, I'm a shaman. That's not I'm an indigenous person anyway, so do that with what you will. This is my way of just speaking, and if that's, again, not bashing anybody who says that, but it's like, that's your way, this is my way. And I'm healing myself because at this point, you always have to heal yourself. It isn't that you get to a point you're like, I'm healed, I'm cured, everything's great. It's like, no, there's hills and plateaus, there's dips, and it's a journey. And what you do on the road is up to you. On the Road by Jack Kerouac. So the Western concept of a trip is a nice thing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we should take a heed to. Is like, the only person that can heal is yourself. There's a lot of different ways we can heal, through medicine or whatever. But ultimately, I think the healing has to be done within. And we're always looking for an external source for healing. But I think if you can turn yourself inward, I think that's where the power of healing can happen.
And that's the thing, too. And I want to respect and just bring up this whole concept of, because earlier when I was younger, before my health stuff, I'd be like, that's a bunch of bullshit. But again, having that contrast and again, being handicapped pretty much for 5 years physically, because it didn't just affect my voice. I couldn't do anything really. It was so bad neck tension that I couldn't even do dishes because any upper body, anything would just, I would feel like I'm choking. So this whole concept of not being able to breathe is a very familiar concept for me. And I've known people who have had COVID and such, and I want to speak to those who are going through that and in some ways also, suffering through these things. And again, I don't want to be a healer or a preacher, but I know every circumstance is different and there's different levels of suffrage, but you're right. When you're stripped away from everything that you know, like I couldn't weightlift anymore, I couldn't sing anymore, I couldn't swing a sword anymore, I couldn't walk anymore, really. When you're left crippled, it does something to you. And I think that's just where the blues comes from. I think that's where beat poetry comes from. I think that's where art, good art, the art that I enjoy, that's where it comes from, is how we use our suffrage and our just existence to express our creativity. And I think, people want the concept of, an artist is, somebody who paints, somebody who writes, but it's somebody who makes a good meal. It's somebody who questions anything. They're like, well, why do I have to? Why? Again, that can be dangerous as well too, but there's still something about that. Again, going to the beats is like, why do I need to write linearly? Why do I need a sentence? Why do I need this? And yes, again, I think everybody should know the constraints. We should know grammar. We should know all these rules of good composition, but take from that what you will and make it your own. And that sounds cliche and maybe Hallmark card-like, but it's true so far. And again, we're in a really good highlight point. My ego is being fed. I'm talking to you both. You're giving me your attention and it feels great. But even past this moment, which it will pass, I hope people just remember that, is that everything's a moment. And if it becomes so unbearable, well, you have death to look forward to. And that's not dark. I think that's just the truth for me. Yeah.
That's a reality.
Yeah, exactly.
And it all ends the same.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's exactly what our music tries to do. Yeah. And just our overall creative expression. Yeah.
Going back to a term that we used earlier as apocalypse.
Yes.
And really in the Greek, that means an uncovering.
Yes.
it doesn't mean a destruction. It's an uncovering. It's a turning. The Mayans understood that, I think. That when the year 2000 or
Right.
whatever, you remember that when they were saying
Oh
the
yeah.
end of the earth?
Mm-hmm. Then
Really?
22. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. I remember all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really just an uncovering into something different. And
It is.
death is that way, I believe. I personally believe it's not an end. It's just a turning into something else.
I think so too. There's days where I don't think so, and we definitely have discussions about that as well too. But a lot of artists that I know are obsessed about it. Again, going way before all this even happened, I was obsessed with the Bushido code. I was obsessed with samurai. So they were obsessed with death. They were obsessed with an honorable death. I read the book religiously in high school, Hagakure, the Book of the Samurai. Every day I'd read a quote. And it was always talking about be ready to die. All the time. When your mind and body is at peace, think about dying. And then that transcends, again, Hagakure, going back to it. I remember I was dealing so much with my queerness back then, even then. And it was Hagakure, the Book of the Samurai, that pretty much gave approval, because I was worried, even back in the ancients, I'm well, they didn't approve of, but then there's a quote in there, I don't remember it exactly, but they're basically saying, it's cool to be a gay samurai. And I'm oh, okay, cool. So my point being of that is even ancient stuff can lend to you. I think my generation is very anti-old. And it's well, you're going to get there pretty soon, number one. And number two, it's these people have been around longer, and there's other people who archived this stuff who are even older. So study your history, kids, because it has a way of repeating itself and just changing shape. So, yeah.
Going back to the bass in this history, you guys have been playing for 8 years. You said that you were part of this prog band that you had. Were you playing the 2-string bass then, or was that something that happened a little later on?
No, yeah, this is a very new discovery. This is about almost a year and a half, maybe 2 years old for me. I played guitar a little bit before that, but not really ever sang and played guitar. I was just a singer. And again, that's a limitation that I put on myself of just being everyone else will do it for me and I'll just sing. And again, having limitations or having people leave, I'm left with myself and I'm going okay. So we were just playing tracks and I was just singing to that, but now it's no, I want to do this. So yeah, it's a fairly recent discovery. Yeah.
So 3 years ago, 5 years ago?
For the bass itself, just a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I love the bass. I always have, but never really picked it up. This is the first time I was really drawn. Like I told you, it changed my life discovering that 2-string slide bass. I play it every day and I play it religiously. I've never, ever fallen in love with an instrument like that before. And I think I just found, again, one of my other voices. So,
when you worked with this luthier, Scott, you actually did the work on these basses yourself,
correct.
Right? It wasn't
Yes.
you just kind of giving him your parameters.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll make it clear as well, too. I had one person design digitally the body of not this one, but the other ones. Then I had another person CNC that body. And then that was shipped to me. I shaped the body even more to refine it because it was still in a rough shape. I had to route out the pickup holes. I had to sand it down. I had to do the binding, which me and Scott, he helped me do that. So it's all those different things. And then it all came together through my hand. Scott definitely helped very much so. Probably it depends on each bass, but initially it started off probably 70% help, and then to the fourth one that we built, I pretty much did about 70%. Yeah, so it kind of flipped. So yeah, to be fair and clear, it's construction and it's a collaboration. I definitely see it as a collaboration, but yeah, it's not like I just hired people to do it. It was all a collaboration to be able to put it all together because it could only have been done that way. Yeah.
Not only was it a collaboration, it sounds like you really understood where you were coming from and what you wanted to accomplish with these instruments. Is there another instrument on the way?
Yes, there's a couple instruments that I have conceived of, but don't tell my parents. Because it's always fun with funds just to figure out what goes where for bills and what goes for rent and such.
How long did it take you to make these basses?
The first one about 3 months. Second one about a month. Third one About a month again too. So they're getting quicker. Yeah, it takes that now on average. If I wanted to build another one, probably about a month. It's pretty quick turnover time at this point. And I have had interest of people wanting to purchase them, but just to be quite frank, I'm a bit selfish, and this is kind of my thing. So yeah, I mean, I definitely will help people if they have questions on wanting to do their own 2-string thing, and they're more than welcome to ask questions. I have answered those, but again, there's certain things that I covet for myself because I spent over a year researching this stuff. So
yeah, you were talking about all the parts that you sourced.
Yes, a lot of vintage stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So you obviously did a lot of research, which I think is.
I love research.
I love research.
It's a great thing, definitely.
So that fascinates me when you told me about these basses the first time I came to visit. Another technical question I have for you, because I really resonate with the low end of things. Is there a particular frequency? Have they done studies as far as?
Yes, they have. Yeah, the bass frequency itself is the only frequency that you can feel physically. It's the only frequency you can hear high pitched stuff, but that hurts because your ears, your drums are kind of responding that way. But you can literally feel the bass. You can feel that thump. And I think, even Mark Salmon and all of the people from Morphine said, the people who are attracted to that will come. And I'm attracted to it because it's low and it's just scientifically proven to make you feel good. Yeah.
Well, it definitely resonates with me. And you speaking about the angst. And would you consider yourself a happy person?
I don't really like the word happy. I would consider myself always trying to be a content person, striving for accepting the current state of things and trying to make the best of it. Happiness is, I think, a capitalistic construct that's always fleeting, and it's always something in a storefront that you never quite have enough money for. And I think I really, identify more as just content because I want to know if all this is gone. I think about it all the time. I think about all this disappearing. I do every day because we don't realize how delicate our existences are. And I think COVID maybe is teaching all of us that, or the whole world, that life is precious and it's very, very delicate. And I think there's maybe happiness. There's happiness in moments. Like this is a great moment. I'm definitely happy and I'll be sad when it's over. In Buddhism, they teach you existence is suffering. It's what you do again with that suffrage that I think defines you as a person and makes you received in a certain way when you're present in life and when you're gone. So we'll see what happens to me when I shuffle off this mortal coil. I won't know. It's like he says, you won't know because you'll be dead. So, yeah.
Vitaliy, any thoughts on that and what Cipriano just talked about?
On being dead?
No, not on the death part because we
on
know
being happy.
Yeah, on the whole thing as far as.
Oh my God, that's such a loaded
because you play this music and you're obviously brothers in this whole musical journey. So
happy. I like to call myself realistic, which to other people just means like negative, but I really try to look at things, try to remove myself from things and my bias as best as I can. And I tend to think that reality really is kind of like a dark, cold thing, and you don't necessarily have to be unhappy in it. But if you are going to be happy, it's going to be constant struggle and work. So that's all I could really say about that.
This whole thing is work, right?
Yeah.
It's always work.
Yeah, there's a philosopher, sorry to interrupt you, Arthur Schopenhauer, I believe is his name, and there's a quote that he said, he's a philosopher from Poland, I believe, the safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy. So make that with what you will, but I think that's kind of, in a way, how we feel, because we study a lot of the philosophers as well, too. We're not trying to be hoity-toity, because anytime you say that, people are like, oh, you're a philosopher. But it's like there's certain things, I don't agree with everything with everybody, but some things that can be taken into account of people's observations even back then. I mean, there's another philosopher, I forget his name, but he just saw these windmills being built. I believe he was a Dutch philosopher, obviously with windmills. And he just saw how industrialization was going to ruin society. And we have major big cities now, and New York is its own thing, as is LA and all the cities around the world. I like the city. I like the city life, but there's a lot of things that are very gritty about it that I think a lot of our music comes from as well, too. So, yeah.
My philosophy is that the glass is half full, but that motherfucker could get kicked over at any moment.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also made of glass, too, so glass is very breakable.
To a church, I talked to a priest. We knelt down to pray, but God didn't speak. I went to a millionaire, asked him for a dime. He said, I gotta work hard, get back in line. I guess I better work hard for what I need. Might as well be someone though I like to please. To a bank, tried to get a loan. I talked to the teller, said my credit's blown. I guess I better work hard for what I need. Might as well be someone though I like to please, if you know what I mean. Then I got a job with an awful slob. She was a greedy pig who said earn big, big. I guess I better work hard for what I need. Might as well be someone though I like to please.
There we are. That was called I Like to Please. Because we like to please, yes.
Fantastic song.
Thank you very much.
Is that I want to talk about that little button you're hitting at the very end there.
Uh-huh.
Is that like a bit of a kill switch?
It is, yes. You're very good. Yes, that's the right term, too. Yeah, that is a kill switch. That's inspired by the guitarist from Rage Against the Machine.
Okay.
Yes.
Tom Morello?
Tom Morello, yes. Wonderful, wonderful musician. Incredible. Very innovative guitarist. Yeah. Big influence for me as well, too. Rage Against the Machine in general. Yeah.
We've been talking about life and some of the darker things which resonate with me. Your influence, one of your influences, I should say, Mark Sandman, his life was actually ended in a very almost performance type of way. In fact, he was performing, died of a heart attack on stage. That's in some ways kind of appropriate for
I think so.
a musician.
Yeah, they were performing in Italy, and he had some heart problems. He was mugged as a taxi driver. He was a taxi driver, and he was stabbed near his heart. I think he always never quite healed properly, and he was a heavy smoker as well, too. And I watched the interviews. I hope I'm not overstepping bounds to anybody who's Morphine fans or Dana, anybody who's listening. I don't want to offend anybody, but he looked kind of sickly on that tour, and even from the people that I've talked to and just heard, he didn't look quite right. And he lost, I believe, all three of his brothers died in a very old and tragic ways. One of them was hospitalized. The other one, I think, was a car accident, something like that. So he lost had a lot of loss in his life. So he really was always pushing, and he didn't really get really known with Morphine until he was probably about 37, I believe, is when they started. And he died when he was around his 40s. So, he died on stage playing a song, and he just went down. And all of a sudden, they just heard this big, huge, he was off a little bit, and then they looked over, and he just dropped.
If you got to go out, at least if you get to go out doing something you love, that to me seems like the best.
I agree. Yeah, we both
the best
agree.
that you can
we
hope
both
for,
agree
right?
with that. Yeah, and I think he had to have known something wasn't quite right.
Yeah,
but I think he just, he probably just said fuck it, and I probably would do the same thing, because as we talked about before,
Do you think people that are at the cusp of death, do you think they get a sense like, hey, it's coming?
I've watched family members die, and my mom and dad have watched their parents and grandparents and such perish. I think there's a point where, you realize this is time. And I think eventually, for my grandfather, for my mom, from the tale that she told me, is that it got really hot in the room. And everybody was in there, was like, it's really hot in here, we're going to go. And it was just her and him. And then she fell asleep or something happened, and she woke up and she saw this huge hue of orange light, and then he was gone. So I don't know. I don't know if there's something bigger or smaller, or there's a white man in the clouds with a white beard. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. And if all the Christians are right, then I'm definitely going to hell. So I am a fornicator. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else in between.
Hey, a little shout out to hell. I think
I know, a little shout out to the devil. Yeah. Playing the devil's music,
on a Sunday morning.
Yes, this is my church here.
We're definitely worshiping in your church. We love the music you've been playing, so I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
I'm going to move to writing. Obviously, you're a poet, is right. You write poetry,
yes,
and you write music.
Mm-hmm.
Do you approach writing the same way, whether it's lyrics for a song, or is it interchangeable? And then do you write on the typewriter?
I do. Yeah, typically, if I don't have the typewriter, I write on my phone, which I don't prefer, but that is my machine of preference, definitely. A nice little find at the antique store. It's all the same. I went to Seattle not too long ago and had a good time. And even during those good times, I was writing because I'm in a different perspective. I'm in a different place. And it all comes. And sometimes if I'm seeing it shape more into a verse, chorus, verse, I'm like, or if it has more of a rhyme scheme, I'm like, that sounds more like a song. But then this one sounds more like a poem. But again, going back to Mr. Mundane and this new project, I'm trying to definitely smash those two worlds together. So we'll talk about that later when that time is upon us, hopefully. Yeah.
So talk about what you try to do with this other alter ego.
Yeah, Mr. Mundane came from working. And I worked at the Denver Art Museum, and then before that I worked at the Arvada Center for the Arts and Humanities, and I taught there for about 8 years and was dismissed. And then I started working at the Denver Art Museum, and that was a great job. I mean, you just got to stand there for 10, 12 hours a day looking at Monet. That was during the Monet exhibit. And everybody, was like, you're so lucky. I would love your job. It's like, oh yeah, trade places with me. Stand here for 12 hours. That'd be great. And it was a great experience for both of those. I'm not being like, it was bad. Again, I try to look at everything is informing my existence. And that's, again, what the Beat Poets did as well, too. They were talking about, when they took a crap, they would fucking even try to, write something from that. And I think there's something very tangible about that. Whether it's great art, I don't know. My point being is that Mr. Mundane comes from that place of standing uniformly watching people watch art. And to entertain myself, I would just stand differently, or I would isolate the body, or I would do something to just not fall asleep while standing up. And yes, that's possible. And I remember, different people. We had one evening where it was all the collectors of the Monet. So the owners of the paintings were in there for a beautiful feast. And I'm standing there and I'm like, these people are millionaires. They own Monets. And, they're in their way of being. And I just remember, just every time they passed by and they didn't see, I'm sure they saw on the camera. It's probably why they didn't rehire me. I was always kind of just like, so that herky-jerky kind of thing came for it. And I would always have to wear a certain uniform for that. So I made this suit that I put Velcro on that I could rip apart. Because I remember just feeling like I'm a trapped animal. And I'm wearing this monkey suit and I just want to rip it off. And again, it comes from also being an indigenous person of color. Like, anytime I wore a suit, or every time I wear a suit, people are like, you look so nice. I'm just like, don't I always look nice? So it comes from that place. So Mr. Mundane comes from just the mundaneness of existence and that kind of routine. And this one really did a beautiful brass section piano thing for a song. That's the title song, which is called Mr. Mundane. It's about the days of the week. And I interchange it with W-E-E-K, but also W-E-A-K, or E-A-K. So days of the week. So, yeah. And this was all written pre-pandemic, and we did a show with Mr. Mundane at the Mercury, which is an eerie telltale of everything that was going to happen. We had a song about police brutality. We had a song about the meat industry. We had a song about just mental health issues. So it was almost as if we saw what was coming. And I played Power of a Pathogen, which is from a movie, V for Vendetta, which is also a beautiful graphic novel, which is about the government creating a disease to get the dictator reelected. And it turns out I was wrong. Thank God he wasn't reelected, but let's wait another four years and see what happens. So yeah, that's where Mr. Mundane comes from, in short. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
And people can search out some of that work online.
Yes, correct. Yeah, both on YouTube and on Vimeo. There's a 20-minute performance of Mr. Mundane in the first iteration of him being on his feet. But I have a couple of things on the horizon where I think he's going to be brought out a bit more. I'll be doing some performances, hopefully at Colorado College. I was hired, and I'll be presenting some stuff for a few other classes and lectures. So I think I'm going to try to combine these two worlds. I say hopefully because, again, impermanence is always a thing. Anytime my partner never likes when I say this, but anytime I leave the house or leave them, I'm like, I'll see you later, hopefully. They're like, why do you say that? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So that's kind of why I do what I'm doing.
That reminds me when I go out on my motorcycle, every time I say goodbye and I love you to my wife, because I always approach that because riding motorcycles is so dangerous.
I can imagine.
It could be my last ride.
Yeah, it reminds me of the movie Easy Rider.
Yeah, yeah.
And they do die. That's a great movie. But anyway, I love movies. So. Yeah.
You guys just performed at the Bridge Project.
Yes.
How did you get hooked into that?
I was with Platform, and that was their exhibit, and I was a mentoree for that program, and I was just going to put some art up, and I did. But I was also like, hey, can I also perform? I have a band. And they said, sure. And Bridge Project's been great. They even said that we could come back anytime we want. And they just had us. It's as simple as that. I mean, my partners also approached them and was like, do I need a proposal or anything to do things here? They're like, no, we're not that formal. Just come to us, tell us what you want to do, and we'll figure it out. And I'm like, wow, what a refreshing thing in the Denver art scene. I mean, I get the formalities of a proposal, your thesis and artist statement. I love that stuff. I get it. But sometimes it's a bit hoity-toity, and it's like, okay, your connections know my connections. There's something going on here that, you know what I mean? There's always something sometimes, but it's nice to have places like that in the Mercury and other venues as well, too. And people like yourself that are like, yeah, sure, this is still art, and we call ourselves low rock, which is, the term that Mark Salmon invented, but I added on low rock, high art, so again, you're low, but you can also be high. You can make that as what you will. There's a lot of little double meanings there, but yeah.
Well, I like the idea that they said, do what you want and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
A complete freedom. Like, we'll make
exactly.
it happen.
Yeah. And that's a great thing, because I was watching again this thing about the Beat Poets, and there was this famous hotel called the Beat Hotel in Paris. And all it was cheap rent. And she was kept it very regulated, 50 cents a day, I think it was. And yeah, you had to watch your voltage, and you can only have one light bulb, and it was kind of dingy, sure. But she knew that if she gave people that opportunity, that some great stuff would happen. And sure enough, it did. William Burroughs wrote a lot of Naked Lunch in that hotel. So you need to provide areas. And if I get enough money, I think that's kind of our idea, is that we want to open up a place. It's an apartment complex that's essentially just that. Maybe not as dingy, but have creative types come and produce things. And I think that's what society, and particularly the governments, corporations, really want to stifle. They just want to, because that's why people were here in Denver, because my dad's studio was just over here, just on 32nd. And rent was cheap, but he saw it kept going higher and higher. So he built his studio here because he knew. And lo and behold, rent is really expensive here in Denver. So, yeah.
Who's your dad?
Oh, yeah. Who is he again? His name is Tony Ortega, and my mother is Sylvia Montero. And they're both very well-known, internationally known artists.
I love what you just talked about as far as that tagline that you have on your Instagram.
Yes.
You said low rock, high art, but the rest of that is producing original queer noir tunes inspired by the past, playing for the future.
Yes.
And I love that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, the term queer noir is one that I've deemed myself. It does exist, but I haven't seen it as predominantly used as I'd like it to. And it's the notion of the night. And again, that's why I like Morphine, is their last album is called The Night. And we take our nightly walks. Me and Vitaliy late, sometimes 1 or 2 in the morning. And it's usually safe. But sometimes there's one night we went downtown and there was all this craziness. There was a bomb threat. Then there was these punk rockers throwing sandwiches on the wall. I'm not making that up. So it's that kind of nuance. Even last night I was taking the trash out at 1 in the morning. I'm like, it's so calm. Because during the day, it's so loud sometimes. But then at the same time, I go back to the idea of Central Park, or I go back to the idea of the 70s and the gay movement and the love movement back then. And being gay has always been in the shadows. And, you have to do things in the dark or in the night, or you have to be sleazy because society has made you sleazy. It's changing for sure, but there's some attraction to that as well, too, for me, like dive bars and things like that. And that's kind of where I come from, sonically, is those experiences of just trying to understand my queerness. And again, William Burroughs and Charles Bukowski, I don't believe he identified as gay, although I wonder, because he's very descriptive in a lot of the things he encountered. And yeah, it's that grittiness again that is that contrast. And I think that's where queer noir for me comes from, is really trying to make people understand that, because it's all a movie for us queers sometimes. We're very dramatic. Not that everybody isn't, but there's something in us, I think, that we're always a little more apropos to that, and which I love, which I think is why I am queer. So.
We discussed Bridge Project, and I want to give a quick shout out to those guys down there. You discussed how easy it is to work with them and how open they are, and I think they're doing a huge service to the art community and what they're providing down there in a part of the city where there aren't venues or art being shown. Having that space and the quality of art that they're able to show there, and making it an inclusive community I think is phenomenal. So
Yeah,
a
for
huge
sure.
shout out to Brett Matarazzo and Michael Dowling for what
Yes.
they've been doing with Bridge Project. I can't say enough about those guys.
I would agree with you very much so.
Very supportive of everybody in the community, and I hope that continues,
Yeah.
and I always look forward to seeing what they're presenting there. You're part of that platform show currently.
Yes. Yep. It'll be up for a little bit longer. I think it's just up for a month because they're always interchanging. But yeah, it'll be up for a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about that show, how you got involved with platform, and that show's called Threads: Migration Connects Us All, and it has to do with immigration and identity. What's your connection to platform?
Yeah, I was hired through them to do a mentor program, which I believe is called NIFA, and it's a New York program where they ask for applications of people, young artists who are immigrants, and young artists and just artists in general, and they pair them up with a little bit more established artists in the community. So I was paired up with an individual, and I helped him figure out his piece. And then we just had a group show from all that stuff, is essentially as simple as that. And it was just nice to be there and just to see all these different parts of the world in one place. Some people are speaking Mongolian, some people are speaking Spanish, some people are speaking Catalan, which is a different form of Spanish or a different language. I heard some Korean. So it's like, wow, this is what it's about. It's like we're all the same. And I don't want to be like, we're all the same. Like, not that way, but it's like we're all existing.
Right.
So because some people would be offended to that, and that's a whole nother can of worms. But anyway, yeah, that's how I was involved. Yeah.
I specifically want to talk about your piece that you had in there. It's 3 individual pieces.
Yes.
Some cell phone or social media kind of tint to it.
Yes.
But it also looks like, even though they're 3 distinct pieces, it almost looks like a triptych.
Yes. The one in the center is not the one that it's usually associated with those two, but yes. Those 2 on the side are part of a triptych, but yes, combining all those 3 was definitely a triptych for sure.
What do you feel like you were conveying in that?
Yeah, these creatures are dying gods. They have blue skin, just like in the Hindu tradition, which means cosmic, which means immortal, but they've discovered human technology. So it's kind of this alien world, because I look to the Aztecs and how we look at them almost as if they're so alien, because it's such amazing architecture and just a very interesting way to perceive the world. So when we die, I kind of picture, these creatures coming down and discovering these cultures. Like, what does this mean? Why did they do this? And so they discover our technology and they succumb to it. And the centerpiece is more of a self-portrait. It's a hybridity, or it's a mesh of both me and my partner. So 2 people blending as one. And we met through social media. So that's kind of my interpretation of that as well, too. And I'm also beginning to realize that male nudity is a big subject for people to not want to show, which is interesting because I just see it as a human body, but I guess people have a hard time with the male nude figure, which I'm beginning to observe, which is interesting. But that's why I just like to just capture that part of the human anatomy, I guess, so it's nothing for me. But I don't even think it's because I'm gay either. I think it's just because Romanesque, art, traditional art definitely was in the nude. So it's like, this is what we are as a species. So why hide behind clothing?
Well, I think the American culture kind of looks at male nudity as vulgar.
Yes.
We can tolerate female nudity and we think it's beautiful. And, and then there's people that look at female nudity, what we traditionally look at female nudity, and find that is, kind of body shaming and all that. But yeah, I find it interesting that when we look at the male nude in an American culture, and it's from my understanding in Europe, it's totally different, but we look at it as vulgar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I went to Seattle and I went to a nude beach, and before I've kind of had problems with nudity, just being nude around naked people. But I don't know. There was something, I don't know if it's because I'm more mature now or whatever, but I was like, there was something very liberating. It was like, this is probably how it was way back when, because we put all this on and we wear this and we wear that and that's status. But before, I don't know, there was something really almost comforting about it, because everybody was different age groups. It was different body types. There was nothing sexual about it. They were just on the beach having a good time. And it was very eye-opening, and I'm grateful for that experience. And yeah, I think that's why I don't really see much of an issue with it. My partner has done stuff, danced in the nude, and I could never do that. but there's something very bold and I'm sure very liberating about that. And that's art. I think that's just being human. Like, why not get naked? Let's get naked. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm not even a nudist, but I'm just saying, yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Thanks for putting context to your art, because I
Yeah,
saw
of
it
course.
last night. And
Yeah.
I spent some time with it because I knew we were going to talk to you, and I just happened to look at the placard.
Yes.
Saw your name, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. So I spent a little bit of time with it, just trying to. But without the context, I was kind of a little lost. So,
Right.
the whole blue body thing. So thank you so much for sharing the context.
Right. And the whole way it ties into identity is just, I feel like that's where everybody's going to, is just, this is our identity. But also the two figures are walking towards each other, but blinded by this. So that's the migration, that's the journey, because we're always migrating to something. The human potential is always like discovery. We're always curious what's beyond the horizon. So that's kind of where it ties in.
How's that piece been received? Did you get to observe people?
I didn't really. I was so obsessed about performing because I had to focus on that. I apparently people were talking about it. I'm not sure. I would like to know more, but it was near the bar. I thought that was appropriate. I kept saying that. I was like, my pieces are near the bar. Have a drink and look at how miserable we all are. So, yeah, because I like that, because I was like, they have a drink and they're like, oh, move on. But that's kind of that grotesqueness of, again, the self-portrait in the center is just my wrestling with my queerness. And there are times where I feel disgusted by myself, but it's not even about being queer. I think it's just about being human. But that's just what I do. Yeah. So far, I do paint flowers sometimes too.
I think most people can relate to that. Seeing themselves in the mirror completely nude and somewhat being disgusted by it, and maybe sometimes being intrigued by it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some days,
It's
both of that.
kind of a weird thing, right?
Yes, definitely.
And we just happened to be in, I'll tell a little story. We were in Steamboat Springs last night.
I know where you're going with this.
The bathroom, and we got to stay in the studio apartment above her studio, and it was manufactured by a guy that dealt with glass. And you walk into the bathroom, a pretty good sized bathroom. They had a glass shower, and then the walls were half tile and the beautiful tile, like really like imported looking tile, and then mirrors. And you could see yourself completely, not in the round necessarily, but
no, I get what you mean.
walls.
Yeah, I've seen that in other bathrooms too. Yeah,
my bare butt into infinity.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
So I totally understand when sometimes you look at yourself in the mirror and there's a little disgust there.
Yeah, there's a concept that I want to do is I want to cast my whole body. And I want to just make myself, because I really want to see myself, because you can't.
Right.
Like, I really want to be like, get down there and be like, oh, that's what my ass looks like, because I want to see it the way because you don't know.
Right.
But the only way to do it is to replicate it. So it's like,
Right.
in time, maybe that's the next project.
There you go.
You have a show coming up at Mercury Café.
Right.
The band does.
Yes.
And talk about that, when it's happening, and
Yep, that'll be pretty soon here. It's going to be August 26th at 9:30, pretty late at night. There'll be more after that to follow, but that's going to be a pretty long set and a lot of the toe tappers. So I'm hoping to get some people dancing with that one. Yep.
Back to the night
Yes.
where things happen.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's peaceful.
Sometimes it's not. Exactly. And there'll be pieces like that, like you just heard. So, but I think that's a good outro. I think we'll finish up with this last one.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Take us out.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
Sent it at 2:45, and I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like I could die, since she will not reply. I said I sent it at 2:45, and I won't let this lie, since she will not reply. She will not reply. Hit send, hit send. Can you hit send? Hit send now. Hello? Hello? Scene at 2:46, and I don't like her tricks. Please, baby, can you reply? If not, I'll just die. A clock strikes 3, it's time to go. On a train to Mexico. I guess I should let this go and catch that train to Mexico. One more thing before I do. I'm gonna send this text off to you. Hit send, hit send. Can you hit send? Yeah, hit send now. Hello? Hello? A lovesick dog on this train got me sick, got me drained. Since she will not reply, a lovesick dog's gonna die. A lovesick dog's what I am. Just reply on Instagram. Ooh, that's a nice selfie, yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, baby, you know that you're real hot. Hit send, hit send. Can you hit send? Hit send now. She blocked me. Yeah, she blocked me. I make another account. I make another account. It's so easy these days, just stay in touch. Let's stay in touch. Let's stay in touch.